Hi, welcome back to another episode. Thanks for returning to learn some more. And if you're new here, my name's Ella, formerly known as Healthy Happiness, and I'm a nurse whose aim is to inspire others to live a healthy, happier lifestyle. Today, I'm going to talk about why less is more. So, this has taken me years to comprehend as someone who always thought I had to fill my day with with 100 tasks to get my goals done quicker. And I think in general I've just always been quite a stressed person. Obviously being a nurse is kind of part of the nature of the job. It's kind of difficult to avoid, but I think recently I really have been trying to focus on reducing that to calm my nervous system. And when I say less is more, I don't even just mean reducing stress. I mean, I'll give you quite a few examples of what I mean by less is more. When I say less is more, I quite literally mean in most respects. So, for example, some switches I've made recently is obviously one, I've come as someone who kind of needs to be in a routine to keep myself, I do find myself better off and happier and more productive when I'm in a routine. But I've noticed that because I was trying to fit so many aspects into the routine, because I wanted to make sure every day I was living that best life, that it was actually making me more stressed out. Because in my morning routine, I'd wake up and I'd have to do this and this. I'd have, for example, in my morning routine, I used to have somatic exercises. I used to do jumping techniques. I used to stretch. I used to do breath work and all that. But then I actually found myself waking up before work and thinking, and even though I left enough time, it was very much a burden in a way of, oh, I've got to do this now. And it makes it less enjoyable. And it just defeats the whole point of being in a routine. As much as that activities I was doing was beneficial for me, it was actually counteracting the benefits because I wasn't going into it in the right mindset. And maybe, yes, I could have changed my mindset, but instead what I've done is I've decided every Monday I will do a full routine. And then the rest of the days I will just wake up and choose potentially one of those aspects to do in that morning, so that I don't feel as though I have to fit so much in. That's just a minor example of my morning routine, but I even mean in general in my whole routine. And I also make sure I only try and fit in one job a day, whereas I used to think I had to try and get all the jobs. Now, I am someone, by the way, that no matter what it is, I always have something to do, and I can always find something to do because I'm always working on something, building something, etc, etc. So I always have quite a lot on my plate. And I used to think that every day that I woke up, I had to try and complete as much as I can in that day to get to that goal quicker. However, I've realised again, stress is one of the most unhealthy things for you, and it will bring on so many risks of disease, and it will shorten your lifespan, and all these negative effects come from stress. And even in the moment when you're stressed, it affects your energy, it leads to burnout, it makes you unhappy, it leads to your skin breaking out, your hair falling out, you put on weight. So there's so many negative effects to it. So I realised actually what was more important was reducing my stress now and just prolonging my goals for all these activities I was fitting into my day. And that also made me happier. So what I do is I make sure I'm only doing one, or I'm only aiming to do one a day. And I've also taught myself, as someone who would get quite, I used to like to be quite in control of things, and I used to get quite stressed out if something couldn't happen that day and I had to like put it off. Understandably, I don't want to have to put things off, but I very much taught myself that it doesn't matter, there is no rush to goals, and I know a lot of people will say you might not have your whole life because you don't know what's going to happen, but at the end of the day, you do have so long to achieve your goals, and it's so much better to be enjoying the journey, be present in the journey, even if that means it being a slower journey. You don't want to get to the final destination and think, I didn't even enjoy a second of that. Life is for enjoying. There's no point in putting all this stress on yourself, because you'll just end up regretting it in the end. Sometimes you just have to consider yourself at your end of your life and look and think, if I look back, would I be satisfied with how I did that? Or do I wish I lived in the moment more and enjoyed it? Which is why I now prioritise maybe family and friends over career or things that will just generally stress me out. So yeah, that's quite routine focused, and yeah, I now, as suggested, I try and fit less in the day because it's more beneficial for my health. And I have noticed such a difference in myself and my well-being and my mental clarity, my energy, my focus, just from less is more. Another example is to do with exercise and movement. So I have been going to the gym now, I'd say, for 6 years, and I mean, one, I'm assuming due to stress, I've never really noticed much of a difference. I mean, I think I am quite harsh on myself in some aspects, but I've never understood why nothing was changing. I've always eaten healthy, I've always gone to the gym, but nothing was changing. And to be honest, I've concluded it was due to all the stress that I was putting on myself, which I have now worked on. But I think what I've also realised is, even though lifting weights is so beneficial for you, and there is so much evidence to suggest that lifting weights is such a great way to strengthen your body and also your mind, but I have noticed the most benefits, and don't get me wrong, I still lift weights. I try and lift weights 3 times a week. Obviously everyone's different, everyone's schedule's different, everyone's body's different, so I'd never want to tell anyone how to move their body. But for me, and as well, it is a fact that walking is the most beneficial way of maintaining your health. And I used to think fast walking, which is good for you, it is apparently, and I've also decided that instead of walking quickly, I've decided to slow down, because when you're walking quickly, you're telling your body you're almost stressed or in fight or flight, so you're increasing cortisol levels, which is why slowing down is almost better for you, and it's more enjoyable as well for me. But obviously, for example, sometimes, again, everyone's body's different. Sometimes lifting heavier weights can be better for you. Sometimes people notice a better difference of lifting lighter weights, and it always depends on what your final goal is as well. But as I was saying, I have kind of tried to stop stressing myself out by telling myself I had to go to the gym every day, because I did used to do that, and now I've realised one day is not going to make a difference if I miss it. It's not worth the stress that I was putting on myself, since that was the issue. But I've recently started going to the sauna. Now, this has what I have found most of my benefits from. I literally cannot express it enough. So I just listened to my body, and if I'm not up to it, I'm not going to force myself to move my body in a way that my body doesn't want to move, because again, that's not going to happen, especially with cycle syncing for women. On that week of the month, you won't catch me doing any sort of weightlifting or anything, because it just counteracts. Again, as much as it's good for you to move your body, it's almost not the right sort of movement for that time of the month, because your body doesn't have enough energy to be completing that, so it's actually stressing your body out. So in conclusion, in terms of exercise, I think almost giving myself that time to relax in the sauna. I also try and keep my legs up, which is good for reducing stress because your blood is flowing, and also reducing puffiness in the stomach area. So, well, kind of water retention. So that is why I think my most benefit has come from going to the sauna, because you're less stressed. I mean, obviously because of the fact that you're sweating out toxins and everything, but you're less stressed, you're doing less, and it's just in general known for, I mean, it's better for cardiac, it's better for your skin. My skin is improved. So obviously I'm not saying you have to go to the sauna, but that's just an example of how me choosing to do less has actually benefited me more. And obviously some obvious examples, like if you put less pressure on yourself to do things, then it will remove anxiety. Even just, I have noticed that I have kind of reduced the friends that I put most of my time into, not because I'm trying to be horrible, but because I kind of live in 2 cities and I'm back and forth all the time, it's really hard to fit in a lot of people. And that was another thing that would stress me out, because in the short period of time I'd be in one place, I'd want to see everyone, and then it would really just, I wasn't enjoying myself then, because I'd be so overwhelmed with all the activities I needed to be doing and all the people I needed to be seeing. It just defeated the whole point. So I've kind of just, and don't get me wrong, I have nothing against the people that I've kind of stopped seeing, and I'm still there for them. I still make time for them if and when I can, but I have got my main friends that I focus on, because when you decide who the real ones are and you focus on them, you end up giving them more love, attention, and building stronger bonds with them. So actually, you might not have as many friends, but you have stronger friendships. Again, less is more. I actually even think I have noticed, this isn't something I intended to put in here, but I almost do think I was oversleeping as well, but that's as someone that's always slept about 10 plus hours a night, which I know is not normal for most people. A lot of people don't struggle to get their 8 hours of sleep, and that's completely understandable. I've just always been someone that's prioritised their sleep, not because I probably should have other priorities, but that's just something I've always had built into my system. And I think because of that, that's why I've always carried on sleeping 10 hours a night, because I thought that's what my body needed. But actually, when I started sleeping 8 hours, I noticed I was actually feeling almost more awake the next day. So again, it's not less, it's the normal amount you're meant to get, but less is more. Or for example, less caffeine is less cortisol level build up, less is more. I feel like you're hopefully getting the idea here, but you could kind of put it to a lot of examples. Obviously, some examples such as less water is not more, less food is not more. Obviously, the more variety on your plate, the better. Maybe the less amount in certain circumstances. I don't mean completely less. Obviously, you need to make sure you're eating enough, because if you're not eating enough, you're not getting your energy, you're not getting your nutrition or anything like that. So those examples maybe don't count. But also, what I've done recently, completely cleared out my wardrobe, and that wasn't because of this reason. It was actually just because I have an unnecessary habit of seeing something I like and feeling the need to buy it, and then wearing it once and then hating it. So I needed to do it anyway so that I'd stop. It's not even because I'm obviously wasting all my money on these clothes. It was even the fact that I just don't have the room for all these clothes. It's just unnecessary. It's so unnecessary. And I know this is very much first world problems. But the point from that is that the more clothes you have, the more options you have. And actually, the more options you have, the more decisions you have to make, the more effort you're putting into making those decisions, and you're kind of taking your energy away from other areas that probably would benefit it more. So there's quite a few people say that they actually try and reduce the decisions they make in a day by keeping to simple outfits. Now, don't get me wrong, just because I've reduced my amount of outfits doesn't mean they're simple. I mean, I'm a simple outfit dresser anyway. I like to kind of keep it quite less is more. Yeah, I kind of have now made a set outfits for certain events, just so that I don't have to make as many decisions. Well, that wasn't the initial reason, but it has helped. And even just kind of having your certain maybe meals that you stick to, although having said that, you still need to make sure you're getting your variety of different foods in. Otherwise you're not going to get a full range of micronutrients and vitamins and all that. Maybe just knowing, for example, different salads you can have each day with different foods in. Sorry, that was such a health example, saying salads. You don't have to eat salads. The benefits of less is more is, and what my main aim with it was calming my nervous system, which is again something along with the stress that I used to always carry around with me. I never had a calm nervous system. Now there's active ways that you can calm your nervous system, such as meditating, breath work, grounding, but obviously everything counts toward it, and it starts with just reducing that anything that's going to build stress or take up too much time. Obviously there are going to be days where you're going to have to feel stressed, and a little bit of stress is actually good for your body. A little bit of stress, a lot to do. It's obviously never going to always be that way, but noticing it and trying to reduce it where you can is just a good step to have. And a calm nervous system has so many mental, physical and long-term benefits, such as, again, weight management, skin rejuvenation, hair growth, nail growth, weirdly. Obviously mentally you're going to be less strained, you're going to reduce burnout, and you're just going, when you reduce all of that, you feel better within yourself, you have more focus, more concentration. So, and then long-term benefits is just, you're just generally going to be healthier, your body's going to have a better immune system, so it will be less risk of disease, and better longevity. That's not how you say it, but you know what I mean. So overall, trying to figure out what areas of your life you could maybe reduce and see where less of it would be more beneficial for you will contribute to a lot more happiness and a lot better health.